One of the big slogans of the Democratic left these days in justifying a whole range of policies, not just in coronavirus, but also climate change and fracking and other things, is listen to the science. And interestingly here, the left is big on science and always has been. Marx was big on science. In fact, he advanced his theories about the revolt of the proletariat as scientific predictions. Marx even says, in effect, he doesn't have to agitate for social change. Why? Because it's built into a scientific law of nature. Now, of course, nothing could be further from the truth. Marx's predictions have been falsified, not just in his own time. They haven't come true anywhere in the world to this day. So the guy was, if anything, a mad scientist, a bogus scientist, or perhaps better thought of as a false prophet. And then we go to the Nazis, who are also big on science, racial science. Mengele even goes to Auschwitz to do scientific experiments on twins. He finds human specimens, if you will, to conduct his macabre experiments. Woodrow Wilson, the founder of modern progressivism, Democratic president elected in 1912, Woodrow Wilson was big on science. In fact, he thought that the American founding should be set aside because it was, quote, unscientific. Here's a very telling quote. "The Constitution was founded on the law of gravitation. The government was to exist and move by virtue of the efficacy of checks and balances. The trouble with the theory is that the government is not a machine, but a living thing. It falls not under the theory of Newton's universe, but under the theory of organic life. It is accountable to Darwin, not to Newton." So listen to this guy. He thinks that the Newtonian mechanical universe is obsolete, and the organic Darwinian universe is the way to go. But now think about this for a minute. What is Woodrow Wilson trying to justify? Government control of markets. But markets are Darwinian. Markets are adaptive. Markets are constantly changing based upon local conditions. So here's a guy, Princeton president and self-soi-disant intellectual, whose own analogy doesn't even apply. His science is bogus, and you can see that he's not listening to the science. He is superimposing a kind of crackpot science onto his ideological progressivism. And that's what goes on from all the time on the left. Let's consider the example of coronavirus. Now, I don't for 1 minute dispute the science of the virus. It's a real virus. It is more contagious than the flu. It has all kinds of effects. That's the science. But the question I have to ask is this: what follows from that in terms of public policy? And the answer is absolutely nothing. Why? First of all, there's a philosophical problem. Science talks about what is. Public policy is what ought to be. It was the philosopher Hume who reminded us, really now almost 3 centuries ago, that you can never deduce an ought from an is. You can never go from this is the way things are to this is the way things ought to be. Those are two different kinds of statements. But if I was a policymaker and someone told me these are the facts about the virus, I would then ask a question: does that mean that we should have a national lockdown? How long should that lockdown last for? How many jobs should we be willing to sacrifice in order to respond to the virus? Now think about it. Those are not scientific questions. Whatever is true about the virus, whether it's twice as infectious as the flu or 10 times, you still have to bring in all these other considerations before you can make a policy judgment. And so the point I'm trying to make is that to pretend that you can declare, here's the science, and here's what we want to do, and one follows logically from the other, this is a fallacy. Now, I don't know if the people perpetrating this fallacy are just, they haven't read Hume, they're super dumb, they don't know that you can't get an ought out of an is, or if it is the case that they are just trying to claim the prestige of science in order to justify the things that they want to do politically. And what is it that they want to do? Why this appeal to science? What is the goal? The end goal is really simple. With climate change, as with coronavirus, this is a pretext for the tyrannical mind to go, aha, we have here an opportunity to do what we could not otherwise do. We have the opportunity now to shut down civil rights. We can block people from going to church. We can tell them what to say. We can regulate their movements, control freedom of assembly. We can control the economy. We can essentially create the kind of economic dependency that benefits the left politically. So ultimately, this is not about science. What it is about is the tyrannical streak in human nature playing out through leftist ideology to establish regimes of social control.